Today's matchup. Creator. Innovation. Classic. Bunny.
Welcome back to the GSL Code S. We're going to go into our second PVT of the evening in what may be an entire evening of PVTs, depending on who wins and who loses here.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a Classic versus Bunny. Now, I got to say, Creator was a bit of a disappointment. I'm a little bit worried we're not going to have a Protoss advance because Innovation actually looks like he's in pretty good shape. Classic has at times been like the Protoss god himself. But he's going up against Bunny, and I think Bunny is probably one of the best in-shape players in the entire round of 16.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I mean, it feels like every single GSL Code S going back, I mean, maybe even years, Bunny is just always, you know, perennial, at least like top 8 contesting.
Yeah. Every year he's gotten better.
It does
He's stuck with
way.
his style. Like at IEM, he looked really good.
Yeah.
So I don't imagine he would be knocked out here today, but we'll see. Classic's a very smart player. Classic has had some time to come back and acclimate to the current meta. But Bunny's got to be the favorite, right?
I would think so. I mean, he was my favorite pick coming into the group just overall. I mean, Bunny just rock solid TVP in a pretty good place. I feel like a good place for his style of TVP specifically. He's very aggressive. He likes to play these bio balls, and you know, Protoss just kind of feels like they're in this tenuous place where they're very fragile around the 8-minute mark, 9-minute mark. Oftentimes games end, but if you can get past that point, then things start to equalize a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just tough. It's so difficult against these Terran players that just know how to pick you apart.
Classic wins the award for the blandest room we've seen here. And hold on, where's Bunny at? He looks like he's at a beach house or something. There's like the lighting's like just set a certain way.
Oh, I like that mirror he's got behind him, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I like his
he's got a little
lot.
welcome mat too. This is nice.
Yeah. Oh, that's
a comfy room.
Why don't you come check out my gamer room and you go, oh, there's a little welcome mat here. You put your little toes on it, feels good.
Little toes.
Yeah, you squiggle your toes through there. You go, ooh, I like this.
Yeah, I think Bunny probably the favorite to advance from this group. I mean, he's just a rock solid player, and I'm a little concerned now that we won't get a Protoss player advancing because, like, as good as Classic is historically, he hasn't been having as much success since coming back from military service a while ago.
Yeah.
He's been struggling to kind of regain his footing. I mean, this is a guy that I think got top 4, if I'm not mistaken, in like 2 consecutive BlizzCons, which is just like incredible.
It's crazy,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you're on top of the world for your race if you're doing that consistently, but it's been a difficult journey for him back here in GSL Code S, whereas Bunny just, you know, consistent as it gets. Just always fighting for top positions here in GSL. And it's going to be an uphill battle here for Classic, but you know, one interesting thing that I did notice when I was trying to, you know, find some VODs for the cast today to, you know, tune into these guys, see how they're playing, is Bunny really hasn't been playing in a lot of online cups. He hasn't been playing in a lot of leagues since IEM. I think he's been kind of quietly practicing back at home, so it's hard to pin exactly where he's at, and maybe we will have room for an upset here.
Yeah, who knows? We're going to go to Royal Blood to start this out. Classic versus the Bunster.
The Bunster.
The Bunster. The Bunnerino. Let's do this.
Classic.
That room gets me excited, man. It's just...
At least we have a little bit of color there on like with the mechanism we close the door.
What do you want to bet in that room that Classic's and we open up that closet behind him and it's also totally empty?
It's like the closet, like a hotel room. You just open it, it's just like a white wall with like 3 white hangers. Like, okay.
It's just a copy of the Bible in there.
All right, here we go on Royal Blood.
Yeah, let's see what we've got here. We do have Classic immediately coming out with his probe and checking if there's any kind of barracks hidden behind his minerals.
Gateway Scout here for Classic. Interestingly going for Gateway right there in the main base. And man, he's really paranoid here against Bunny. I wonder if there's some kind of metagaming going on right now. Like if Classic has had proxy barracks or something to that effect as a weakness recently, or if he's caught wind that this might be something Bunny's probably going to pull out during this series, because in terms of early game PvT scouting, he definitely seems the most paranoid by far of everybody that we've seen.
Yeah, very, very concerned that something might be out there. Yeah, this is you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm curious, like with Classic here, if he loses, how bad could this get for Protoss? Because like, I was really expecting Creator to beat Innovation.
I was too.
That was for me one of the more obvious matchups, and now that he's gone, I'm like, oh man, is this really going to be like a round of 8 with just 2 races? Like we're going back to Warcraft 2. It's going to be orcs versus humans for the
orcs versus
later part of
humans.
this.
It's very surface level analysis, like going to a Ligalac, like looking up Innovation stats for the past 2 months, because that's how long he's been playing in tournaments again, right? But
right,
his TVP form, it's not very good, despite the matchup feeling like it's in a good spot for Terran overall. So I was concerned for him coming into today, but that was a clean 2-0. And so now you got to think, all right, well, if Classic can't beat Bunny definitely the favorite here in this matchup, we're going to have a PvP losers match. And then, God, it's going to come down to either Creator or Classic coming up into a player that's already won a TVP today.
Right.
In the decider. It can get scary, man. We might have only 1 Protoss in the round of 8. We might have 0.
You might have 0, man. That would be very unfortunate. Regardless, if there's no Protosses in the round of 8, we'll still have people talking about Protoss being OP. It'll still...
It'll still be there on
This
chat.
is the one thing I've just discovered about StarCraft is you know, the thing that we do all the time that's called the tournaments that figure out who's the best, the ones the Protoss don't win. Those don't seem to impact the thinking of these people.
Stormgate's going to come out, and the community's just going to decide that one of these factions is actually
Yeah.
Protoss, and we all have to hate them
There's
now.
going to be one that has something that's like a pylon, and they're like, well, that's the OP one then. And, of course, it'll be the other 2 races that'll win the tournaments, but that won't change the narrative.
All right, well, let's see how this one goes. It's going to be a Phoenix opening here for Classic, so not opting for that early Oracle. Probably going to be banking these Phoenixes, and actually, no, seeing that rally point, maybe going to go for a Scout. Let's see. Zoning away this Hellion for now. I think Innovation really wants to gather a little bit more intel on what Classic is cooking up back at home.
Yeah, we are going to have a Widowmine drop come in here. Actually, a very similar opening to what we saw from Innovation. The Robo is on the way, but in this case, the Protoss is pooling Phoenixes, and I think this is a great way to deal with the opener that Bunny's doing. I mean, this is kind of your bread and butter TVP opener, but the fact that you can just catch the Widowmines in the medevac and shut this down entirely is huge.
Yeah, I keep combining these words. If a Widowmine, a Middlemine and a Wedamac.
If a minnow goes up a stream.
But if we have, okay, so Phoenixes do get spotted. So possibly, I think we will still see a medevac drop. It'll be coupled with these Marines. It'll just be more conservative because Bunny's not going to want to get in the kind of doomsday scenario where you send in like 2 or 3 Widowmines in a medevac and they all get picked off by Phoenixes and you get nothing. And this is kind of reminding me of what Stats' game plan was coming into his GSL group. I mean, he didn't really get to showcase it that much because he just kind of got bopped early in a lot of those games. But yeah, this Phoenix into third base while teching into robo-base style is starting to gather a little bit of popularity coming here into Colossus Tech. And it's something that I could see Classic kind of meshing well with his approach. And especially even only cutting Phoenixes now at 2 since they got spotted. I like this for him so far. This is nice. Oftentimes you'll see these Protoss players build up to like 4 or 5 Phoenixes, and that opens up an opportunity where it's like, okay, you spent almost 1,000 resources on this unit that in a big fight doesn't have much utility. Yeah,
it's like the exact worst number of Phoenixes to have when there's a huge push with Marines and you know, medevacs coming out. It doesn't really beat anything. The 2 basing is going to continue here. This should be all synced up to line up with a +1 attack that Terran's going for. I don't see a 3rd command center, although we did see in the previous game Innovation just kind of gets that a little bit late. Maybe we see the same thing here with Bunny.
Yeah, if we do have a timing attack come out from Bunny, I imagine it's going to be syncing up with combat shields here. So we'll see what he opts to do. More Widowmines in production, so it will not be that siege tank push. And I'm liking what I'm seeing from Classic, man. He's spreading these pylons around the map. He's, you know, slowly trickling in these Phoenixes. He didn't go too crazy about it early on. Allowed himself to speed up that Colossus tech, get a sentry out, which has been gathering energy for who knows how long now. Thermal Lance already underway. Third base up and running. I mean, this is pretty solid. He's just going to have to weather the coming storm over the next couple of minutes. If he's able to manage this attack, it could go very well for him.
Yeah, but this is going to be a pretty scary attack. This is a really powered up, you know, 2 basing Terran here. I like the Phoenixes coming up here to nab these Widowmines and basically reduce anything reinforcement-wise that's coming. But it does not you can't deny that this Terran push is about to come down here and hit. Infantry level weapons. One is about to finish as his combat shield. I see 2 Colossus down here and a 3rd one on the way. Is he going to have enough to stop this?
Yeah, 3 Colossi in total. As interference matrix goes down on 1. There's a lot of damage coming out of the Protoss army, and Bunny's just going to have to try and micro his way around this, as all the Widow Mines just got skirted around. Not a single one popped off there.
Yeah, that actually went very poorly for the Terran. I'm starting to feel like Classic's in really good shape, and I think it's very possible Classic might even try to push out here and deny the 3rd. Before it lands.
Yeah, this is nice here for Classic. I think part of it comes back to him kind of slowly trickling in these Phoenixes instead of rushing them out, because getting that 3rd Colossus suddenly means you can't matrix every single one. And with how marine heavy Bunny's army composition is at this moment, those Colossi, they really mow him down.
Yeah. I'm worried now for Bunny. I don't think he's going to have an army that's quite strong enough to ever really engage with what Protoss has. Hold on a second. He's going to walk right into this Widow Mine.
He walks into Widow Mine. I think the sentry does go down there as Bunny just continuing to micro his way. Does clean up some of these pylons, trying to deny a little bit of vision. And man, Classic just pulling out all the stops. Proxy gateway here for the Zealot run-bys. I'm loving this from him.
Yeah, this is very cool to see. Well, I think it's because we have so much roaming here from Bunny that he just wants to try to set up a small area where you can start to send Zealots through and try to counterattack. And if you can get those Zealots up into the natural or maybe even into the main, then he could probably push and punt the 3rd command center off of its position as well.
And no armory yet for Bunny, so Classic able to spot that Widow Mine after it shoots, pick it off as well. And with charge underway, keeping that Widow Mine count under control is going to be pretty key here for Classic, I think, is it's often one of those splash damages that Terran likes to rely heavily on against these high-tech Protoss compositions, because if you're spending all this gas on, maintaining at least 1 sentry, having a healthy number of Phoenixes, getting in Templar for Storm or Archons, mixing in Colossi, you don't have much more than minerals to just pump Zealots with, right? So
right.
These Widow Mines, critical units here for the Terran, but as of yet, only 6 on the field.
Yeah, he hasn't been in a position where it makes sense to send him on over. Protoss is taking a 4th base here. But I guess as far as Classic's concerned, he's not done building up. We have a Warp Prism that's on the way. That could be the cue for him to then come out on the map. But it looks like it's actually going to be Classic on the defense, or at least he needs to be on the defense, as Terran is about to come down here and pounce on this 4th Nexus.
Yeah, no vision here in the middle, so Classic going to get blindsided a little bit. He's going to race to reinforce here, but the Widow Mines get burrowed in a fantastic position. And I'm not sure if we actually have an observer here with this Protoss army. It might be hard for him to deal with those Widow Mines there on the Nexus. I think he's just going to let it bleed out as these Zealots do get denied now coming into the 3rd base.
Oh, Charge just now finishes. I was like, is he really having slow Zealots like 10 minutes into this game? So the Zealots are shut down. Obviously, Protoss lost that Nexus, but this is going to be the moment where maybe Classic can come up here and try to win this with a push of his own.
Yeah, oftentimes it feels like if Protoss isn't ahead of base in a PBT, it feels they're in a bad position, because you kind of need to have a swarm of gateway units to actually handle the Bioforce that gets thrown at you, right? But as it is right now, Classic's army, he hasn't really had any bad trades where he lost a lot of key units, but actually hold that thought, Taze. Let's look at the mini-map right now. We might be entering some base trade territory with Bunny moving down to the 6 o'clock position here, and Classic hitting the 3rd base of Terran.
Yeah, he's going to wipe this out very quickly. Now, you could very easily just get up into the main as Protoss. There is more locations that need to be picked off in this game for the Protoss than there are for the Terran. He's just going to continue to move up here. This is getting wild here, State.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy one. And keep in mind that Phoenixes are on the field, so lifted buildings can eventually get bled out as long as those Phoenix remain alive. A lot of these critical upgrades here for Protoss, though, unfortunately will not be able to complete. So he will not have 2-2, he will not have Blink.
The other thing to note is that there's still this gateway up at the top of the map. If the conditions are you have to destroy all the buildings, then there's just more places that Terran's going to have to venture to. And we have an extra Nexus being made over here as well, just at the gold base. The command center is going to be destroyed. I think that Classic actually wins this game.
I think so too. Looking at the units that we have on the field right now, I favor Classic's army, even though the army supplies are even. And I mean, just it's one of the benefits of going Phoenix is in this very rare situation, you actually do have a unit that can kill these flying structures. Is Oftentimes, it can be such a headache for Protoss trying to play whack-a-mole, chasing down
Yeah.
all these locations where command centers get planted. And
And this is the last command center right over here, I think. Oh, I'm sorry, there's one more at the top right, but I mean, there are no SCVs. Yes, you could land mules, but Protoss already has a couple probes. I think it's like 3 or 4 up here.
yeah, shield battery is
Keep in
going
mind.
down too. Also, keep in mind, Classic having that gateway means he could power up more quickly with that cybernetics core, more rapidly get out more shield batteries after his units get or his tech gets reset back at home. And yeah, I'm looking at this Protoss army, and I think if Classic takes the engagement right, he should be able to defeat this Terran force. I mean, it's a lot of bio, don't get me wrong, but Bunny kind of has to attack into him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot that Terran has. I'm worried, though, that Protoss might just have enough of everything to kind of take this on. There are a lot of Vikings that could be used to try to hit these Colossi at a distance.
Yeah, there is no blink. Keep that in mind. So only
Yeah.
5 stalkers without blink. And all right, here we go. Engagement underway. Classic actually confident enough to push forward. A lot of this bio just getting melted
Yeah,
here by this
there's
back
just-
line of Colossi.
Too many Archons and too many Colossi here. This just gets thinned out. The Phoenixes could pick up the stray Marauders and even pursue these medevacs that are over here. That's going to be game. GG Classic takes it in the first map. An impressive showing.
Yeah, that was a really good game there by Classic. I mean, that was... You know, that kind of reminds me of Classic back in his heyday with just how solid he looked from start to finish, going from Phoenix into Colossus. He handled that transition perfectly. He had the 3rd Colossus in time for that Terran push to come out, so suddenly the Raven, no, it can't Matrix all 3 of them. He's going to have some splash damage. That forces Bunny to pull away. And then just, you know, the way that he just played slow and passive back at home, filled out his tech tree to the best of his ability, macro it up. I mean, he built an army that never really got its high-tier unit count reset at any point.
Right. I love that Classic was willing to just abandon the Nexus when he got out of position. He's like, oh, I'm not even going to try. That's exactly what Terran wants, is to get them out of position like that and then get further behind. But yeah, he basically gave that up, patiently remade the Nexus again, moved out. When he identified it was a base trade, he was very, very methodical about what he had to do. He made sure to take out all the SCVs and the command centers and then just bank up enough to get, you know, that extra Nexus made that's going to, you know, basically be your lifeboat
Yeah.
in the base trade. Anyways, we're going to go on to Ancient Sister down here for map number 2. Right now, Classic with a 1-0 lead versus Bunny.
Classic.
Love that room.
Something about the angle, too.
It's like his head's so low and the door behind him is so tall.
Mystery Gaming. Bunny.
So if you study photography, they try to teach you to, you know, like set up like in thirds sometimes,
Yes,
or like
yes,
these lines,
yes.
or if you're a super nerd, like
Yes.
you'll do like some golden ratio stuff. But I'm not smart enough.
There
for
is
that.
a little bit of a Wes Anderson vibe as far as
very-
how the camera's set up there in Classic's room.
It's a little offbeat.
Yeah.
It's a little offbeat. It just makes the void feel so
Yeah.
much more consuming.
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna go on in this game and see if, you know, Bunny can actually tie this up here with Classic. I got to say, I'm very, very impressed with how Classic's looking.
I gotta say, that was the most solid Protoss game we've had so far here in the GSL, coming all the way in Group D.
Oh yeah.
And from Classic, too. I wasn't expecting that. You know, I thought it might be Hero, it might be Creator coming through, but that was just, it felt like almost a clinic on PBT.
Well, let's also keep in mind, like, nobody made Bunny do a base trade. Like, that just
Right.
happened. Classic was moving out, and Bunny just ran in there, and Classic's like, all right, well, I'm gonna be in better shape than you in this moment. I'm curious what would have happened had he tried to actually fight that. Although maybe he would have just lost the army and died anyways. It did seem like Classic was basically able to bring the game to where he needed it to be, to about 11 minutes, where he has, you know, the Colossi, the Archons, an Immortal, everything that he's going to need to basically kind of sweep through and remove anything Terran related.
Yeah, it felt like Classic just kind of navigated all of the problems that Bunny threw at him perfectly.
Yeah.
And if you do that as Protoss and Terran invest so much in those attacks, more often than not, you're going to be in a good position. It's
Right.
tough to do. It's very difficult to do. And you know, a lot of that was also Classic being very rigorous with his scouting. I mean, he had pylons thrown all over the map just basically observers covering so much distance, so much locations, or so many locations, excuse me. And you know, Bunny just kind of got stopped at every turn. He was only able to find, I think, like a 4th base denial was the only real damage he was able to manifest that entire game.
So far in this game, I mean, we're kind of waiting to see what kind of tech it's going to be. I assume we're going to have Blink upgraded unless we have another surprise DT build. DTs seem to be very popular this season so far.
Yeah.
Although they haven't served the Protosses that well since none are in the round of 8 yet.
No.
So it's going to be Stalker Blink.
They're going to be Blink again here for Classic, so deviating a little bit from that Phoenix opening that we saw in game number 1 here against Bunny. And I'm wondering exactly what flavor a Blink Stalker build this is going to be, if it's going to be something a little bit more aggressive, potentially with 4 gates and a Robo, or if this is just going to be Classic going, you know, 2-gate, 3-gate Robo with the 3rd base and just trying to macro up because, you know, his macro, his defense, it felt so solid in that previous game. I would not be surprised if he just continued to try to play that defensive game and be like, okay, Bunny, try to find the hole in my armor, try to find my weakness. If you don't, I will pressure you.
I think he's going to do aggro, 3-gate or 4-gate with Robo.
Oh, is that another gateway there at the 3rd base? Oh, actually the
so.
Robo. Robo, okay.
Robo and 2 more gates are coming.
Yeah, so there is potential for aggression here, but shouldn't be super committed, especially now with the Scout getting off. It does do these 3 gateways, and I think the Twilight Council for Bunny, I think it might have gotten close enough to see that TC.
I think you basically just expect that to happen.
Yeah, that's also true. You see these Stalkers and more gateways warping.
Yeah, you're like, all right,
okay.
I know what this is.
This game's been at like 13 years.
So if he's not going to be aggressive with it, he'll just be taking a 3rd base, and you basically use the Stalkers with Blink to intercept medevacs that are going to try to drop you.
Yeah, it's going to be a Cyclone push here coming out from Bunny as well. And okay, Observer first here for Classic. So if he had gone for a Warp Prism, actually Bunny coming back on the map. All right, he's not going to be committing. I was going to say, if he decides to commit against Stalkers and potentially a Warp Prism, that could go really badly for him. As we've seen, you know, players just get so good at juggling units and Warp Prisms and medevacs and avoiding those lock-ons. And, you know, Bunny just now powering back up at home. RoboBay will be the tech of choice again here for Classic, just getting there a little bit differently with Blink.
Yeah, just going to get Colossus out after that. I thought we might have a Warp Prism and some aggression. You can see Terran is set up to fight Blink Stalkers coming up there. He basically has his tank on the other side of all of his infrastructure ready. Like that's set up kind of like a little wall here. But yeah, we're not going to see anything of the sort. It's going to be Classic playing a pretty reserved macro game, just basically focused on development. It's kind of interesting. Both these guys, pretty passive. You know, this is a matchup where you can have a lot of engagements early on, but they really seem to want to basically stay back. Oh, hold on. He is going to come out with these Stalkers now.
Yeah, but with the 3rd base and Colossus underway, I feel like this is probably just going to be him. Oh, he's going to blink up, isn't he? It just looks so juicy. Yeah. All right, he's going to come in. Let's see what damage he's able to find, but...
Yeah, I mean, the tank back there makes it really hard to actually, like, try to commit down on the tech lab or anything else like that. So I would imagine he's going to just blink out as soon as he can. He might try to come in here and see if he can kill some workers.
Might try to recall. This is an interesting play to blink back here. Have the natural. Oh, that one poor Stalker. It's like, no, guys, what about me? Does get taken out, so 2 Stalkers do fall. And I like Classic kind of posturing like he is going to make a highly aggressive play, but a lot of that is just trying to keep Bunny in his base and allow Classic to power up, buy him some time, and, you know, build up back at home. As he wants to have charge done, he wants to have Colossi out before the big engagement comes, but Bunny, ooh, hold on a second.
This is cool. Classic going to go for the counterattack.
He's going to get combat shields. Oh, this is sick.
This is a pretty wild deny. He did not manage to get stem, unfortunately.
Yeah, I do not think Bunny was anticipating Classic coming back so quickly from his main base after that recall.
Yeah, and you know, the Stalker harass is still happening here.
Yeah, this is a dangerous situation, though. I mean, the counter damage potential here is huge with this double drop in the main base. Only 3 pylons powering all 6 of these gateways, and that is the bulk of Classic's production. Probes also going down, 10 dead already.
Man, this is wild. Hold on a second. And then there's going to be a push-up at the 3rd base. We don't have it on camera just yet. But it's coming, and he's going to take out that. This might be like almost all the probes, by the way.
That's
the
a lot of
Stalkers
probes.
are coming back, but
a lot of probes going down. Double turrets here as well. As I think this will eventually get cleaned up here as Bunny doesn't have enough strength to actually force down that shield battery, so these Stalkers will be able to push this force away. And you know, at the end of the day, the army supplies are going to kind of equalize after this, but Bunny got the better end of this trade.
Yeah, I mean, Bunny at least has a healthy you know, macro engine back at home. I mean, he has enough SCVs for every mineral patch. I do think that, I mean, Bunny basically traded out almost all of his entire army. So there's that. We still have the sophistication that Protoss needs. We do still have a Colossus. We've got a decent number of Stalkers. And we have a third command center starting here for Bunny, too. So are things going to quiet down again here? I think they might.
I think they might, but I'm concerned for Classic once Combat Shields completes, just because his economy got reset so hard there. And
oh my
how
God!
Are you so
how does he
good?
have that? I don't even. That's wild, man.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I mean, sometimes you just get this feeling as a Protoss player. I mean, this happened to me sometimes in practice where it's like, okay, they're going to be going for a drop. Probably they're going to be going for my third base. I'm just going to send Stalkers on an intercept path and maybe I'll get lucky. And that's the kind of moment where you get
like
lucky. And it just feels so good. And that's the kind of thing that can kind of give you a little bit of a confidence boost.
Oh, yeah.
In the booth after you
There's like nothing
execute
better
something
than
like
actually
this.
shooting down someo's medevac.
Especially in the blind. Especially when you're doing it by gut instinct.
Where you're like, no, I think he's going to send something out. And then you just go there and intercept it.
And Classic right now, frankly, he does need a couple wins like that because Bunny, I mean, the worker supply, it's only just now getting close to equalizing. He has to find some catches like this. He has to take some favorable trades. Otherwise, Bunny's army supply is just going to start to balloon over his. And this damaged medevac, unfortunately, does not get intercepted coming into the third base. And that's actually a lot more probes going down. They got all bunched up.
That's so much. It's wild, man.
Yeah, you would think that Classic would have had something in position there to actually catch that medevac after, you know, almost completely intercepting it there at the 6 o'clock, but no, not able to make it happen. 14 more probes get down just after Classic equalizes too.
Yeah, like Classic had caught all the way back up, and now he's going to have to keep making workers. He's already lost 41 probes this game, but hold on a second. There's a big push coming out. This time, Terran not going to try to base trade. Instead, he wants to try to take this on head on. 3 Colossi is a lot. I don't see a Raven here, so that means there won't be any disables. Oh, this is a little bit of a staggered engagement where the Colossi were not actually doing the damage they needed to do. Yeah, and they even leave one tank alive, which is clearly a mistake as well.
Yeah, I think this might just be Classic feeling that he has to get something done after losing a second round of a massive number of probes. He realizes the situation is, you know, tenuous at best here. As he's going to dive in again. Stalkers blink on top of the tanks. We'll be able to force one down. Colossi getting juggled in the back. 3 Vikings going to try to focus now on the Warp Prism to prevent this micro, but there's just so much Terran on the ground. Colossi will get cleaned up, and Bunny's going to tie it up 1-1 here against Classic.
The Bunster does it. He gets that kill there. You know, I actually appreciate Classic trying to just end the game right there. He's like, okay, I'm so behind. Maybe I could just make a bunch of Zealots and kind of swarm in there. But he had a very poor engage. Bunny's coming back. He's looking very strong. And I like Classic's like blink counter into the main, but
it was so good.
It looked really good. But the problem was he was spread so thin on 3 bases that the drop in the main and then the push at the third, I mean, he killed so many probes. And then the medevac drop with the Widow Mines.
Yeah,
like 13 probes.
The damage was all right there, blinking into the main base, but the second Widow Mine drop coming in and then resetting the probe count yet again just kind of forces Classic's hand. He's like, okay, I can no longer win. I'm no longer in a position where I can win a macro game. Let's go for the Hail Mary play. We just have charge done. You know, we got 3 Colossi out. There isn't a Raven on the field. We sniped that earlier. Maybe we can go for a killing blow, but, you know, Bunny just too good there with the defense, recognizing the situation, pulling the boys, just defeating that army, and that's going to be the series tied up 1-1, but I'm still loving the play that we're seeing out of Classic. I feel like, you know, if it wasn't for a couple of missteps there, he very easily could have come back in game number 2 and really made a show of it.
Yeah, let's see what we've got next here on the map, Babylon. Classic versus Bunny continuing on. Remember that Innovation is waiting to take on the winner, while Creator is waiting to take on the loser of this series. And map 3 is loaded up. Let's go.
Classic. Mystery Gaming, Bunny.
You know, with how Paranoid Classics probe scouting has been in the early stages of these games so far this series, I was almost convinced that Bunny was going to go for a proxy.
Yeah, yeah.
But it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Yeah, that was it's been a fun series so far. It's been a lot better than, honestly, Creator versus Innovation.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, that was just like over before I felt like we even got warmed up to it.
And, yeah, and Creator's a great player too, and you know his PVT's better than he showcased there in that series, but unfortunately just not going his way. And you know, Classic and Bunny now, it almost feels like anyone can take this game 3. I'm liking what we're seeing out of both players.
It does feel like Bunny is maybe slightly better, only because, you know, Bunny basically lost in game 1 because of a very bad decision to try to do a base trade in a position where just pretty much the Protoss is always going to be okay. But yeah, I mean, in a game that was more about, like, you know, tactics and strategy, it did seem like Bunny came out on top, or Classic came out on top. Oh, no, what am I saying? Bunny came out on top, sorry. What am I doing?
Yeah, but there were also like a lot of moments in that game number 1 too. Like, remember how we got there for Classic to get into that position where a base trade just wins the game outright for him?
Right.
You know, it was a very difficult series of attacks that he was able to navigate while going for a Phoenix Colossus build, which is one of the more fragile openings that you can do as Protoss. Although it's one of those openings that also can pay the most dividends if you are able to successfully get to the point where you want to be with, you know, 3 Colossi out, 4 or 5 Phoenixes, some gateways, a third base, potentially a 4th base. And Classic just did it really well. I'm liking what we're seeing out of him so far here in Season 1 of GSL this year. And I'm hoping that we see more of this because, I mean, it's frankly been kind of missing from GSL Code S, not only here this season. I mean, of course, we don't have any Protosses yet qualified for the round of 8, but no, last year as well, it felt like besides Creator and Hero, we didn't really get too many bright stories for Protoss overall.
You're right. No, it did not seem like that at all, unfortunately. I think this is doable here for Classic. I think that you know, it's funny. We've had actually in both our best of 3s moments where the Protoss, whether it's Stalkers or DTs, like some kind of plan to like come in and basically use this as a pin. Like the Terran leaves and you come in, you start to kill stuff. But in both times it actually backfired.
Yeah, the Terran's like, okay, that's not a
The Terran ignored it. Terran's like, I'll just attack with all my SCVs and I'm going to still push you. And I mean, there is something you can kind of take away from this. Like, you know, maybe the last couple weeks this was working. You know, using like kind of a pin technique, but then Terrans realized like, oh, if they have this much stuff in the pin, you just go attack them because they don't have anything at home.
Right. All right, well, similar opening here for Classic, going back to that Phoenix Robo play that we saw in game number 1.
Look at this micro. This is wild.
Yeah.
Terran didn't lose anything.
A lot of damage, but nothing dead.
Yeah. Phoenixes are going to be pooled. We do have a Robo here as well. And it looks like we could have the third base come up in a little bit. Widow Mines and a Viking actually going to be made here first.
Huh. Yeah, the Viking
about the Viking.
Viking is interesting. Let's see how Bunny decides to use that one. If he's feeling really cheeky, he might just send a cross map, but I'm kind of doubtful of that.
Yeah. And only getting 1. He stops making Vikings after that.
Yeah, interesting starport usage. Now going for what I imagine is going to be a Raven right afterwards. It is that Raven, so. Huh. That's something you don't see too often. Probably won't have too much of a bearing here in the middle game, but it is always fascinating to see the little twist that these players come up with in their builds. As Phoenix is coming in, Widowmine shot does get off.
Well, yeah, Widowmine shot and 1 Viking shot. That'll kill a Phoenix off.
Yeah, well, I guess we see the utility of that
Maybe
Viking.
that's the idea. Yeah, I don't know.
Oftentimes you see those Phoenixes come in and they get clipped by a Widowmine, but, you know, that's only like 99, or not 99, but like maybe 95% damage on a Phoenix, right?
Yeah, not enough to you know, for it to be catastrophic.
Yeah, but that Phoenix, or the Viking, excuse me, is pretty much already paid for itself. It killed the Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's sort of like this. It's cheaper and more mobile than a turret, you know,
Yeah,
and it kind of gets the job done. So I kind of like it now. At first, I had a lot of questions. I'm like, why? What? You know, we don't normally see a Viking that early.
I suppose it just pairs really well if you're anticipating this kind of early Phoenix play. And I like the way that Classic is navigating yet again. I think in total he made 3 Phoenixes. Of course, one of them went down. and then going into Thermal Lance and Colossus, and then resuming Phoenix production. I think a lot of people, myself included, if they try to play this style, they're all about, okay, I got to get those 5 Phoenixes out as quickly as possible.
Right.
Start gathering that energy. Let's try to pick off maybe some SCVs at like refineries that are exposed. Let's try and get some damage in. And then suddenly Terran pushes across the map and your Robotech has been delayed so much because you invested in those Stargate units that you can't defend. But
Right.
Classic just, you know, finding exactly the right pacing, exactly the right balance of Robo and Stargate production to really make this work. And we might get into a similar situation where Bunny's going to come and push across the map to try and pressure Classic's third base. And by then, Classic very well might have that third Colossus done already, and suddenly you can't Matrix all of the AoE for Protoss.
So, we are going to have some movement out here on the map now. I do see the Phoenixes are just brushing through. They are going to see that the push has basically begun. Almost getting that medevac here. And this is all lined up so that when Stim is done, he can move out, and basically the attack will hit when +1 range attack is done for Terran. So we got to see what exactly is going to be on the receiving end here for Protoss. I see 2 Colossi. I'm sure there's a third one that's probably going to merge up with those 2.
Yeah, only about 25% done, though, so there might be a window here for Bunny that he did not get in game number 1. And keep in mind that this Protoss army, although it is powerful without a Matrix, if these Colossi do get disabled, it loses a lot of its oomph as we have Bunny stimming in. Colossi going to try and focus down a couple of these Marines, but no, both disabled.
Yeah, he disables it again. He's going to run up here, and these Widow Mines.
Oh, the Colossus, it's about to pop. It's going to get instantly focused down.
It's stuck.
Oh, actually, it gets denied there by the pylon. You know, that might actually save that Colossus. Otherwise, I think it was mincemeat. It would have just popped on top of a bunch.
Yeah, weirdly, it might have been better that it's like stuck inside the Robo right now.
I really think that's the best case scenario there. But okay, the pressure continuing now. These Widow Mines coming into the third base here of Classic. He does see this, so probes will be pulled. Recall now coming in as he deflects the attack on the main base. These Widow Mines will get a shot off on the Colossus, so not the best engagement there for Bunny, but keep in mind that he was able to get 15 probes during all of this.
I didn't see these Marines at first, so I was like, why are we looking at the main? And then I'm like, oh, there's 4 Marines up there, still doing damage.
And this actually did not go too bad for Classic. I mean, he lost a lot of probes, yes, but the worker counts because he has that faster third base. I mean, Bunny, his third CC only just now completing. It's still equal. He will be able to use Chrono Boost to close that gap. And now he's in a position where I think the Raven died. If it didn't die, yeah, it is dead. Matrix is not on the field. We have 3 Colossi, 4 Phoenix, and a ton of Stalkers. This is a scary Protoss army.
Yeah, he's going to push in here now. And, I mean, we see the CC lifting off. I mean, it's funny. It's like the Protoss kept alive everything that was super important.
Yeah, it's just like game 1.
Yeah, and you know, now this CC is going to go down. That's
already really bad. We might see Classic moving on to the winners match, Tasteless. This is some good play.
Yeah, I mean, this is already looking very strong. We've got Terran up against the ropes, a 4th Colossus here, some more Zealots as well. I guess Infantry Armor is going to finish. That's handy, but I mean, can you really take on what Protoss has for the time being? I'm not so sure.
I don't think you can, especially on a 2-base economy here for Bunny. He's throwing down that 3rd command center, but it's a long ways away from getting planted down and actually gathering resources. And you know, Bunny, it's almost like he's playing as if he has that 3rd CC. Right now, he's trying to get Ghosts out. He's trying to get Vikings out. He's trying to get all these answers. But the economy, it feels like, frankly, isn't really in the position yet where it can support this. And I'm a little worried that he might stretch himself too thin. If Classic comes in, say, with enough Blinkstalkers to start focusing down the meager number of Vikings that are on the field, what is the answer to the Colossi? The Colossus count's getting really high.
I mean, that's the thing, right? And a lot of times, you know, when you have this many Colossi, everything's going to melt once they fire, right? And how many Colossi can you pick off before that stops happening? You probably need to get them down to under 2. And it's like there's just a lot here. You know, the Vikings, they can scratch the surface and try to damage that Colossi, but also, you know, they're going to the decision making is always going to be to hit the Phoenixes before the Colossi. That's how the Viking will prioritize what it attacks first.
Yeah, you got to focus. You got to micro those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different micro that has to come in, and this is oftentimes why you see Terran players, they get into this kind of position where their army already isn't that great and they have to micro perfectly.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's usually when Terran has the exact setup that they want with a massive bioball order, they actually have, you know, those couple extra seconds to make this micro happen without, you know, being at risk of losing your entire army in a moment. But I'm not sure Bunny's going to be able to catch up to the force that Classic is building back at home. Now, that third CC, it does get planted, so he is back to a 3-base economy. He should be able to start pumping out more Stargate units in addition to these 6 Ghosts we already have on the field.
You can see that Terran's being very cautious here. The 4th base is coming up for Protoss. The 3rd base is now up for the Terran. And that wasn't even the main command center that he used there, so he still has the availability to kind of swap that in for something else. I don't know, man. This is a lot from Protoss. Here we go.
All right, Guardian Shield gets popped. EMPs on the Stalkers, getting a lot of damage done, but these Colossi in the back just, I mean, doing work. Phoenixes do get eventually traded out. No more Phoenixes left on the field. That will make things a little easier here for Bunny, especially considering Blink is about only a third of the way done here for Classic, and that might be his opportunity to try to get some damage in. If he can start to snipe down these Colossus, suddenly his army looks way better. It's just, will he be able to make that happen?
Yeah, I just don't see a moment Terran's going to get in there. And again, it's the important units that are surviving. You can go on without Stalkers and Zealots, you know, but now we've got Archons in the mix. We have the Colossi, of course, staying here. A Disruptor's about to come.
I think the critical thing right now for Classic is to
boys.
hold on to these Colossi. Do not let the Vikings focus them down as the boys are getting pulled. 2-2 going to be finishing here for Protoss, but that's a massive army now, especially with this SCV front line. 9 Vikings in total should make quick work of at least a couple of these Colossi. And here we go, Tasteless.
Oh, man, these SCVs, I mean, how much are they going to tank, and is it going to make enough of a difference? We do see the army getting fractured. I got to say, actually, the SCVs soaked a lot of damage. The Vikings have killed off. Oh my God!
Oh my goodness!
This Hail Mary play actually worked. The Vikings killed off all the Colossi while the SCVs soaked up all the damage.
Bunny with just the killer instinct knows he has to pull every single SCV. 41 of them going down there, but I mean, you don't need workers when you kill the army like that. 93 army supply to 17, as Classic was not able to keep his Colossi alive. They just all fell, and that engagement couldn't have gone worse for him too. Bunny had a massive arc, and there was no active shield battery within range once that army, you know, came in, and that's gonna be Bunny moving to the winners match, man. Classic made a great run of it. I really thought that he had this game after he handled that first push, was able to move across the map, destroy that third command center there for Bunny, but Bunny just with a perfect read.
Yeah, I mean, he has that killer instinct. I mean, you got to hand it to the guy. It's like, all right, well, you did that. He had just the right number of Vikings to actually kill those Colossi up. And the SCVs were, like, perfectly positioned. All the shots were fired down on the SCVs. I actually thought it wasn't going to work. And then we get to this moment, I'm like, oh, God, he's so good.
Yeah, maybe if there was a shield battery closer, and maybe if the Colossi were able to stay alive just a little bit longer to kind of spend more DPS on units other than the SCVs, but instead it's going to be Bunny.
He's
a little
very
dance.
happy with that. Well, it's like, all right, that exactly worked perfectly. Like,
It went to plan.
how many games have we had where, like, we see the boys get pulled and they just die, and you're like, all right, get him out. Next. This means we're going to have a Terran versus Terran coming up here. It's going to be Bunny versus Innovation.
Yeah, and probably, again, the only PvP we're going to get in GSL is going to happen after that, too, in the losers match. We're not going to get another one. One of these Protoss players is going home, and one of them is going to be the last hope for Protoss to potentially make it to the round of 8. And
I mean,
I don't think it's going to happen
right
man.
now. Innovation, Bunny looks so good.
Bunny looks good. Innovation's TVP was kind of a question mark coming into today, but he was able to beat Creator, so that kind of answers some of those questions. Innovation seems like he's in better form than he's been looking online recently, so we might have a lot of Terrans moving into the round of 8, Tasteless.
Going to be doing a lot of TVTs. Golem TVT, remember that meme?
I do remember Golem TVT, man. It's back.
It's a throwback. Well, I mean, props for Bunny. That was actually a pretty beautiful ending there. I mean, he exactly knew when he could tip the scale in his favor. He came in there, and just the sacrifice for the SCVs could not have been more perfect, and he had exactly enough Vikings that basically not a single Colossus shot hit a Marine. All went to the SCVs, and then that's, you know.
And 9 Vikings was just enough to melt through him. The shield batteries weren't in range. The Colossi went down, and just...
Well,
Gonna be a big win there for Terran. All right, guys.
We'll be right back, guys. Short break, and then we go to the winners match.